two-part show. And just like this one, Millennials last week, Millennials Speak this week, another two-part. So if you know anybody, share the link.
Share it. You want to share. Sharing is caring. Now, don't be like this one gentleman. I was in a workshop again. I got tons of stories. Great. And I was trying to get some feedback, and I said, come on, everybody, sharing is caring. And the guy said, I don't care. It was one of the funniest things I ever heard ever. He was being facetious. He wasn't serious. We all laughed.
Oh, my gosh.
But sharing is caring. You want to go ahead and share this with everyone. Get people that you know on here and learning about, you know, very important topics. And remember, URCO is a staple for anything that we're talking about. If we're talking about health, you're still the CEO.
Absolutely.
If we're talking about career, you're still the CEO. If we're talking about relationships, you're still the CEO. If we're talking about your personal life or time management, you're still the CEO. You are the CEO of your life. That's the whole thing. You run the business of you. And the question we often ask is, how is your business running? You don't have to answer that. If you're alone, you can if you want to. It's kind of weird.
If you want to put in the comment feed.
Yeah. How's your business?
Yeah, how's your business running? How's your profit and loss statement going?
Yeah, who's in your C-suite?
Who's your hiring manager?
Yeah. You know, we talk about that in one of our podcasts.
Yeah, you do.
Michael and I.
No, it's
talk
true.
About what that whole thing is. But anyways, and tonight we're going to talk about, you know, the importance of the voice and the great things that just a small representation of this generation is doing to make the world a better place.
Terry, can I just ask our viewers to do one thing for us?
Absolutely.
So, after the show tonight, and you gain all this valuable information, you're going to share all your comments in the feed, all the ahas, the panelists, whatever you want to say to the panelists. Be sure to put that in, any questions that you want. But after the show, can you send us any links or names of other great millennials that are doing great things?
Stories. Things that your kids are doing.
Anyone in your local communities that are doing great things.
Absolutely.
We'd love to, you know, we love to learn about them because we know.
You can post some mints too. Things that they're doing. Go inside of Uplift. And get active and let us know some of these achievements that's going on among yourselves and the millennials that you work with.
Well, because the community is worldwide, I think there's some fantastic stories out there that, I mean, Terry works with young people on a regular basis. So there's some stories out there that we haven't heard. So share them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I'm glad.
So how are we doing? We about ready to rock and roll?
Okay, so all right. So here we go. It's a little bit after 6, so now's the time. Tonight's show is?
Millennials Speak. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Michael Lee Parker here, and we're so excited about this show. And I hope you enjoyed the pre-show and all the shows that we've been having here recently. The latest show was about millennials, and I'm so excited for this particular show because I get to celebrate some people that I've grown to love down through the years, people that have been a part of URCEO since they were really, really young, and now they've grown into adults, and they're speaking out about how there are millennials out there that are creating success and doing some good things. Now, we're going to have a different format. We're going to be going back and forth. I'm going to be bringing in some different guests that are millennials, that have some interesting stories, interesting journeys, and we're going to learn from them. This is one of the key things that we have to understand about this whole millennial discussion and just generational discussion is that every generation can teach us something. No generation owns knowledge and wisdom. We've got something to learn from everybody. And so today we're going to get a chance to do that. I'm going to be shooting some, cutting over to Mr. Terry Fulton, who's going to also be answering a few questions that you all sent in from last week, and even some you might send tonight. So this is just going to be a fun show. This is going to be a great show. So I want to jump right in for sake of time. So we pan out here on our camera, you'll find out that I have a guest here, and this is Kelvin Jenkins. And so give me a handshake, Kelvin.
All right.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And Kelvin, now those of you that don't know, I've known Kelvin, since he was really, really, really small, really young, and to watch you grow up to a professional now. The things that you've accomplished, with your degree, now working at Kaiser in a leadership role, getting married. I know your wife, she's another wonderful millennial.
Yeah,
she's a beautiful wife, very talented. And now to see you here today, I want to just start off by saying, before we get into a few things that I want to discuss with you, what has URCEO meant to you just in your life? Because you've been a part of this for some time. I mean, it's literally helped to shape some of the ways that you think.
Yeah.
What do you think about URCEO?
So first, just thank you for having me on the show. And I think that just to talk about my own personal experience for URCEO, it's been preparation for a lot of the opportunities I've had. And I would say that from the time, I think it was 2007 is the first time I had the chance to experience thinking different.
Wow, 2007.
Yeah, so that's almost, yes, that's a long time for me. That's more than half my life.
Right.
So when I think back to when I showed up, I was going through a lot of things in my household, in my life. My parents were going through a divorce.
Yeah.
I was transitioning from Oakland, California region, more towards the Vallejo region.
That's
so
a
it was a culture
transition.
shock.
Yeah.
And I went to school in Napa, which
Whoa.
was a total culture shock.
Yes.
So while I was going through these changes, it was good to have somewhat of an anchor to say, okay, I know I might be dealing with all, and then it was adolescent time, so I was trying to become a man,
Right.
trying to pave my own way, but having mentors and having friends, it really helped solidify and keep my mind through a lot of that.
Right.
And show me that, look, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
You just got to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that was very well said. I mean, you really helped give some insight into what was going on around your life at the time, and you started getting introduced to these thoughts. URCEO has a lot of life skills in it.
Yeah.
You were a part of some of the original life skills curriculum,
Yeah.
and then to understand this URCEO thinking and use it to shape some of the things that were going on around you, I really admire how out of all that you became a leader. And I've always seen you as someone with leadership ability, first by leading yourself through your own challenges, right, that was going on around you,
Correct.
having to lead yourself through that. But then, sometimes when you start thinking about leadership, you have to look back and see if there's anyone following you, right? And so some people say, I'm
Yeah.
a leader, but is anyone following you?
Yeah.
And you only want to follow because you see someone's doing something that's working.
Right.
And so when you think about leadership, what does leadership mean to you?
You know what I've found? Leadership isn't always about being in front and being front and center.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I didn't want to always be out in front and
Right.
doing something.
Right.
But I have found that leadership is really having an idea, having some gumption about what you want to see the world be, and stand for that. And it's not necessarily that, hey, come and follow me. It's, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to do. And like you said, you have something now that people want to follow.
Right.
And even at work, a lot of the leadership hasn't been like, hey, I'm the guy that can do it. It's,
Right.
I'm listening, I'm taking in what you're saying, And I'm like, okay, how can we do that together?
Right.
And you include those around you. And that is really, to me, what good
Right.
leadership is about.
Now, I think that's a really interesting dynamic because when we think about millennials, a lot of times the perception of leadership is very different. And I'm saying that from the standpoint of how millennials like to be led. They don't like to be led like, tell me what to do and like be on my case and micromanaging. Millennials don't like that. So it's interesting to think about how millennials view leadership in terms of when they have to actually lead. But a lot of millennials want to be, you know, tell me where I need to go, give me my tools, and let me go and do what I can do. And, you know, I'll follow the example you gave me, but let me kind of chart my own path. Do you agree with that? I mean, what's the difference in how millennials might view leadership?
I think it is hard to kind of box us all into like
That's true.
one,
Right.
like we all want to be this or that,
Right.
because there's so many spectrums. Like I came from a mixed generation household, so there was a baby boomer in my house, there was a Gen X, there was myself, and so I'm like, okay, tell me what to do in sometimes, but other times like I don't agree with that, and a lot of millennials I see have things that they feel strongly about.
Right.
It's like when you touch those areas, it's like, no, we're not following that. We want to actually lead in this area, but sometimes we just don't know how.
Right. So you being a young leader, now you're in a a role in Kaiser where you have to be a leader, you manage and you deal with teams, and being a young leader, and I know my journey starting off at Toyota and having some leadership at a young age, people, you know, they look at you like, who is this? You know, who is this going to be telling me this and that? So how have you dealt with that as a millennial, having to be a leader, but younger sometimes than other people, and wanting to do your job and wanting to lead, but then not make sure people know that you don't think you're better than them? Like, how have you handled that?
You know, personal awareness has been huge. So I have an idea of where I'm at in life, and I know I'm not on the same page as everybody else. So a lot of my teams, when I come on, I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm trying to get to know people. What are you interested in? What do you value? And how do I get you to value the work around what you already like to do? So I had a gentleman who was through desegregation. That was one of my team members, oldest team member I had. Had a lady who came from the Philippines, saw her family go through a volcanic eruption. I had another lady who was in San Francisco from the time when chickens were in your backyard, and that's what you did for food. And all these people, a lot of it was just communicating with them.
Now, you manage it in administrative services, is that right?
I manage administrative services.
And these are people that end up coming on that team that you had to learn how to work with.
Yeah, some of them I hired, but a lot of them, for this new team that I'm on, all of them have been there. They've been doing the job for 10 plus years. So it's like, who are you?
Right.
It's like, I'm just part of your team.
Right.
Really, that's a lot of my conversation is like, I don't mean you any harm. I come in peace.
Right.
What are you already doing? And once I get buy-in to what you're already doing, then it's like, okay, how can I help you? So a lot of my strategy has been, how can I help?
Right.
Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. And I've even had conversations, like when I hire a person, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job.
Right.
You should know that already. I'm here to help you break down any roadblocks possible.
Right.
So,
now listen to all this. Listen to this wisdom coming out. You know, I like to hear this wisdom coming from. This is what, you know, our millennials have a lot to offer. And you know, watching you go through and get your, I think you had a BA in sociology at San Francisco State. Then went back, got an MBA, I believe in marketing or what have you, at Cal State East Bay. I mean, watching you go through those educational journeys, and now in the corporate world, leading and, you know, having managerial wisdom coming from you. I mean, it's just amazing to see that, you know, what you've grown into. So I commend you, first of all, just to see what you, but one of the things that I think, just before we close out, I want to ask you a question about, when you think about leadership, and you think about you know, we've got a generation out there, sometimes millennials are trying to find themselves, and then you've got people that are working with millennials that are trying to figure out how to work with millennials, right? So you got, you know, millennials sometimes feeling like, hey, people are trying to figure us out. I'm trying to figure myself out, right? Then you got people that are hiring millennials and trying to bring them in, but figuring out, how do we make these people tick? Like, how do we get the most out of them? What would you say just to the world of confusion that's out there about millennials, both the millennial trying to come in and the one that's trying to understand the millennial? What's some words of advice from a leadership perspective?
I would take it away from being I'm trying to understand millennials to I'm trying to understand this person. And I would make it very personal. So when you're hiring someone, when in the interview process, you get a feel for who's coming in.
Right.
You're doing a lot of, are you going to fit? Really, we can train you on how to do a job and competencies, but we can't train you on fit. And a lot of that also has to be reiterated to the team. So are we open to this generation? Are we open to hearing their ideas? Are we open? And if you're not ready as a company for that, then bringing in millennials and trying to create a strategy is just going to create resentment along the line. So you have to have people within the organization that see it as, we're not against them. They're just the newest workforce. It's the same thing that the baby boomers face. It's the same thing every generation faces, is they're at a different stage of life than you. And you have to meet them where they are, and you have to train them. And understand a lot of the millennials coming into the workforce, it's their first job. They're probably not going to have the skills that you want them to have, but you can train that. They want to work. They need money. They got to eat. So you can give them the fundamental tools to be successful, and you can teach them those life skills.
I think that's beautiful. And really, at the end of the day, there's no one in any generation that wanted to come to work and be treated like a kid.
No.
And there's no one in any generation that want to come into a workplace and not feel like they're valued. And so when you meet people where they are, you see people as people, no matter what generation they're in, you always have a chance to create success. And so I really appreciate the wisdom that you shared. And again, we're letting the millennials speak tonight. And I want to make sure you have time to let that come out. We want to hear from you. And so I hope you all enjoyed this. We've got Kelvin Jenkins. This has been a wonderful segment here. We got some more millennials though. We just, Kelvin took the lead on this one. He took the lead on kind of kicking this off, but we got a lot more to talk about, more personalities to share. These millennials, I tell you, I'm so appreciative to have them on the show here tonight and to be able to hear from them and learn from them. So we got a lot more to say. We're going to switch over to Mr. Terry Fulton. He's going to start throughout this show tonight, kind of addressing some of the questions that people were sending in our last show about millennials, and maybe a few that might come in tonight. So we're going to switch over to Terry. When I come back, I'm going to have another special guest speaking out for the millennial generation.
Hello there. Michael, did Kelvin say he started with us in '97 and that was almost half his life? That one hurt. That one hurt, Kelvin. But anyways, to go along with some of the things that Kelvin was talking about tonight, I thought I would start with these questions that came in from the audience that was watching last week, because he did talk about a lot of the things that you all had questions about and did a really good job. So one of the questions that came in here is, how do we work together? How do we work with them? And so Kelvin alluded to something there that I want you all to consider. The first thing that you probably should do is take the them out of it, right? How do we work with them, right? You're already making a gap, right? Where we talked about bridging the gap last week. Take the them out. It's a person. It's a human being. They're smart. They have skills. They want to learn, as Kelvin alluded to. They want to eat, so they need a job so they can make money. They want to support themselves. And to be honest, they want to do a good job. They don't mind pleasing other people, and they want to make a difference. They want to be challenged. They want to be a part. They want to be included. They don't want to just be told what to do or live and exist in a dogmatic environment. And so if you take that thought process and you take the them out and you start to treat them not necessarily as equals, I think there is something about age and to respect and honor those that have paved the way. But also remember something that Michael said last week: respect is mutual, respect is also given. So you don't want to just receive respect, and make room for them by allowing them to grow, to flourish, to listen, to have a voice like we're doing tonight. Allow them to speak, and then to actually coach them where they need to be coached. And you'll start to see that if you take that approach and you start to think about including them in the entire process, then I think you'll start to even stop looking at them as the them, and you'll start looking at them as us and we, and you're all on the same team. So keep some of these things in mind when you are trying to bridge those gaps. some of the things that millennials value, and some of the things that they're looking for when they're coming to work with you. And those same things apply in a household. I know some parents ask me all the time, how do I connect with my son or my daughter? It's the same thing. Now, don't stop being mom and dad, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later because they're not your friends. However, they are still people, and they will respond if you give them space to be a part of the family, or if you're in a workplace, a part of the team. So just keep some of those principles in mind, and I think those gaps will drastically begin to reduce, and you'll start building a very healthy environment there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw things back to you. It's not about me talking tonight. We're listening to Millennials, so I'm going to throw things back to you, Michael. Look forward to the next interview.
Well, thank you, Terry. I appreciate that segment that you just did and answering some questions and so forth. And I'm back here ready to jump in with these millennials speaking out again. I've got Holly D. This is Holly D. It stands for Holly Drennan. And Holly, it's so great to have you on the show. And Holly's another millennial, been around the URCO family for, I mean, I don't know how long. And I count you as I feel like I've had an investment in your life. And
you really have.
well, listen, I mean, we don't want to start crying up here, but I really appreciate seeing Holly and just seeing what she's grown into. Here she is, the CEO of Holly D Photography, you know, been internationally awarded as a wedding photographer, does a lot in the Napa Valley area. Just, you know, I think didn't you win like the Fearless Female Award or something? I mean, it's kind of powerful award, Fearless Female. And just speaking over 3,000 people, you know, at international events and just seeing you grow as an entrepreneur. I just want to first commend you for what you've accomplished.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, let's jump into something, though, because today the millennials are speaking out. And I want to start off with you as I ask all the millennials that have been a part of URCO. What has URCO meant to you, and how did that help you on your entrepreneurial journey?
I love this question. Well, I have been a part of URCO since I was literally probably in middle school, and I've always loved the concept of learning how to personally know yourself, but also how to make goals, how to, you know, finances, how to, you know, lead your life pretty much. And it really helped me personally because I goal set. I, you know, always look at myself to make sure that I'm always helping others, but also knowing myself so that I can change myself too.
Right. So again, I mean, getting a CEO mindset about yourself had to be a great foundation to then go out and become a CEO in business, right? And so let's talk about this though, because you're an entrepreneur now. You got something to say about entrepreneurship. You've been living it. Now, you were at a reputable company and you decided to step away and become an entrepreneur. And that jump, you know, you got the Fearless Female Award, but it's some fear taking that jump. And so as a millennial that sometimes, you know, is looking for some validation, wants to kind of know where they stand, how did you deal with that initial fear of jumping out as an entrepreneur?
Well, I knew that with a lot of planning, but also a lot of good guidance. So this is where it's really great for, you know, the legacy, you know, other generations. I honestly look to them to get good information, but also put my spin on it, for, you know, you could say. So I honestly did a lot of planning. I did a lot of research. I did, you know, everything that I needed to do to make sure that when I did do the jump, that it was going to be successful. So of course you don't know if it's going to be successful, but you know, a lot of planning and everything, you can hope for it. I did a lot of, pretty much, I saved a lot of money, made sure I didn't have any debt. I made sure that I had a lot of, you know, savings up, so in case I needed to pay my rent, pay my gas, everything like that, I made sure that I had that all covered, so that in case if it didn't work out, that I did have that cushion, but I was hopeful and I had a lot of people lined up for that year.
So you know, when you think about preparation, so it looked like you put a lot into preparation, you put a lot into planning, and that maybe reduces some of the fear when you can see, you know, you can see yourself accomplishing the goal because you kind of think about what you need to do. So when you you know, I know a lot of millennials, there's a strong sense of community, a strong sense of social. They're not afraid to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
I know you're into photography, but now like everyone thinks they're a photographer, right?
Yeah.
Because of just the camera time that we're in. And so when you begin to take that step and you begin to get out there and you had to begin to build relationships, because you started a business where really is you had to do it. You know, it's not like a team or like a tribe that was with you per se in your business. So how did you overcome just the ability to get out and build relationships? Because some millennials, although they're really good online becoming someone that they portray, but when it comes to building real relationships, sometimes it's very difficult. How did you overcome that?
That is great. Honestly, I had to push past all my fears. I had to push past all my insecurities and all of my, you know, weaknesses. I personally, you probably don't think of it now, but I've always been a shy person. I mean, you probably know that, but ever since I was younger, I was always really shy, but I honestly had to push myself to get out there. I went to these venues that had these top photographers at the time, you know, and I said, you know, I just put myself in there, and honestly, because I did that, I was able to press past all of, you know, all of that kind of stuff and be able to nudge myself in there. But networking with a lot of other vendors helped me out, because not only was I able to get myself out there, but I was able to help them too. So it was a back and forth. So it wasn't just like me pulling everything, you know, everything, but I was able to share the wealth, I guess, you could say.
Right. So let's build on that. Now, you basically put yourself out there.
I did.
And you started to get out of your shell, because you're a different person now. I'm gonna let you know. You have to, Holly D is here. And so you come in and you get things done. And, you know, we were at an event one time and you said, just tell me that I can't do it. And then I will. That's when I come alive, right? That's not the Holly that I used to know. But to see how you've grown, it's just amazing. And I think it's really a credit to you in the effort that you were willing to put in. And I want to ask you something, though, as you jumped in that room full of other people, you being younger, also a woman, which also sometimes can you know, work against you just in the society, unfortunately, we live in. Sometimes people set limitations on people. And when you were, you know, coming into maybe an environment where people were older than you, more experienced than you, more known than you, did you come up against roadblocks that, you know, you had to really develop the courage as a millennial to say, hey, I know I'm younger, I know people have a perception of who I am, but I've got to rise above this roadblock. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's good that you're asking me that, because I started from the age of 18. Now I'm almost 29. Crazy that time has flown. So it's almost been, you know, 11 years since I started. And when I first started, I was, you know, pretty nervous, but a lot of people perceived me as being this little kid coming in, trying to steal their business, you know. And then also, like, brides and grooms, they would be like, you know, does she really know what she's talking about? Does she really know how to capture those moments that are going to last forever? You know, that's honest, you know, questions that you need to ask yourself, because this is going to last forever, especially with brides and grooms. But I do also other aspects. But I had to show myself as a professional. Like, I couldn't just come in there as a little kid. I had to come in there looking professional, acting professional, making sure that I had all my stuff together. I had to show them my portfolio. I had to make sure that I had top quality images as well as top quality products. So I had to literally come in there, and even though I knew I had good stuff, I'm a lot better now, of course, but even though I knew I had good stuff, I had to literally, even though other people that are older, they could come in there, you know, bring anything they want, I had to show myself as kind of being older to get in there. No, that I like to say excellence given, excellence received. If you give it, people will receive it as such. And so basically you had to step your game up to make sure they had to respect the excellence of your work. And so I think, you know, that's a beautiful thing. If you know, people will categorize you as a millennial or a woman or a minority or whatever box you want to put you in, but when excellence shows up, they look at the excellence first. And so it seems like that's what you were able to tap into. And so when
let me say this, because I know we have to wrap this up. We can talk all day. I love entrepreneurship and talking to someone like you in the journey. But I just want to find out from you, when you think about millennials, millennials have developed a lot of different skill sets without realizing it. They're used to doing things online. They've come up under different generations that had a lot of different things they put on them, so they had to kind of bust through all of that. And then I know a little bit about your personal story. I mean, I tell you all, Holly has a powerful story of just coming through a lot of things, just a powerful testimony. But when you just think about your generation and all that you've been through, how did you harness all of that and use it as a source of strength to keep going as an entrepreneur? Because I know at some point it gets tough, but what would you say out there to the millennials who want to follow their dreams, want to follow their passions, but sometimes they just don't know how to, or they started but don't know how to keep going? Tell me how you've harnessed that to keep going.
That is a good question too. You have all these good questions.
Well, I'm trying.
So with that, I think perseverance is a really good word. Perseverance, even though anything that you go through, you want to make sure that you are working towards that no matter what. If you really want it, then you can definitely go for it and get it. If it's something that, you know, you're really striving for, perseverance will definitely do it. I know that's just like a short, I guess, answer.
No,
but
it's powerful.
Yeah, but so then, you know, with all of the things I've went through, I know that every time I look back at my personal life, I would always be like, you know, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to have that experience again. And I want to make sure that I am being able to be successful so that never happens, that I never have to, you know, have anyone else go through that. I can help others, you know. I want to make sure that I am doing all that I can, not just for myself, but others too.
Right.
And I don't want other people to go through what I went through. But if you did, it's a testimony because that makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
You know, you look at it, you don't want to do the same things. You want to keep pressing forward.
Oh, that is powerful. Do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this wisdom coming out of these millennials? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. So really, we're talking about perseverance and pain.
Yeah.
Because pain is something that will help you appreciate what you don't want to feel again.
Yeah.
And so it makes you want to work towards something that protects you from that pain. So sometimes pain is one of our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate what you've shared tonight, Holly. This has been great. Another millennial speaking out. And so when I come back, I'm going to have another powerful millennial speaking out again. But we appreciate Holly D. And we're going to switch back over to Terry, who's going to answer a few more questions. And we'll be back to talk more about our millennials speaking out about how to be successful in today's generation.
Michael, it just sounds like the wisdom is falling on y'all in there. This is fantastic. And did you hear Holly D say she's almost 29, yet she's been in it for 11 years? 11-year veteran at the ripe young age of almost 29. That's fantastic. And some of the things that she talked about or even alluded to in terms of the things that she had to overcome to be successful goes right along with one of the questions you all wrote in. And I guess this came from a lot of the history that I went over when I began to describe how a lot of the things that influenced each generation. And the question is, what has our upbringing done to us and how do we change it? That's a very deep question. Can't answer that in just a couple of minutes, but everything starts with self-awareness. That's the beginning of everything. You got to be honest with yourself. You have to take a very honest look at your life and see where it helped you and hurt you. And that's important because a lot of us focus too much on how life hurt us, and we ignore all of the great things that life has actually done for us. So you got to look at both sides. But you got to begin to see how that began to shape how you think as it relates to the world that you grew up in. And then what fits today? What can you bring into the stage of life that you're in right now that can begin to assist you to matriculate throughout the rest of your life? And what things do you need to let go? Have you ever been holding on to a bag or something and somebody talks to you, stops you and begins to talk to you, and you're holding on to it and hold on to it, and after a while you know the conversation ain't gonna finish and your bag's getting heavy? What do? You put it down. And so there are things in our life, there are types of thinking that we've developed that we need to learn to put it down because it's simply too heavy. And you got to begin to have some courage, and you got to start doing some of the things that Holly D talked about. You got to turn your fear into fuel. You got to turn your pain into perseverance. And you got to begin to transform the way that you think and develop a positive way of looking at life. Get around the right people, get away from the wrong people, and keep your eye focused on where you're trying to go. And if you do some of these things, there's a lot more I can say. You'll be able to take those things that you've learned in your life and begin to build on them, both good and bad, to become a better person. And so hopefully that advice was helpful. That's what Holly D did. And if she can do it, you can do it as well. So let's switch back over to Mr. Michael E. Parker with the next speaker, and I'll be back with you shortly.
Thank you so much, Terry Fulton. We appreciate those questions you've been answering and keeping the wisdom flowing. And now I have another special guest. This is Miss Abigail Harrison. Give me a handshake. Listen, Abigail is another one. You've been in the URCO family for many, many years. And just watching you grow into a woman, a professional, has just been amazing to watch. And those of you that don't know, Abigail graduated from UC Berkeley, got her degree in political science and economics, got hired at KPMG, was there for like 6 years, auditing companies' books and stuff, which I can't believe what she started getting involved in this. And then left there, and now you're at Google and doing a lot of things there as a risk and control specialist. And so you are a certified CPA. Can we clap it up for that out there? Is there a virtual, like, clap it up? Oh, man, that is wonderful. A certified CPA and now trying to get your MBA in finance at LSU, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
So I just had to take some time and talk about some of the things you've accomplished. But how did your journey with URCO in your early years help you to achieve some of the success that I just mentioned?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the show.
You're
it's
welcome.
Such an honor to be here. I would say that I've been with URCO since I was, I think, in high school. And I graduated high school, I think, 10 years ago. I think one thing that I learned about being a part of URCO is just being a CEO of myself. And if you want success, you have to go after it. You have to be willing to put in the effort and the time to achieve and accomplish your goal. Like Kelvin was saying earlier, and Holly, just about being a leader of yourself is huge. And as Holly was saying, just being fearless and going after what you want.
Absolutely.
So,
and you definitely use that as a platform to go out and do things that you needed to do to succeed. And so, I want to switch gears though. We're here, we're going to talk about financial management because amongst millennials, I would probably say all generations, people struggle with financial management. And so to see you as a millennial that had an interest in how money works, right? Not everyone, has the courage to go into accounting and finance in those areas. What drew you to this area of money and understanding these? I still remember some finance classes that still I get some nightmares about, but what drew you to this?
Yeah, so my maternal grandfather, so my mom's dad was an accountant, and I really admired him. He worked for the government of Nigeria as back in Nigeria, it's called chartered accountant. And I guess he just seemed to have his life together, and I really admired my grandfather, so I kind of pursued that same avenue. Also, since I was a kid, I've always been a big just being financially responsible. I've always been a big fan of saving your money and using money wisely. I think that just helped me throughout till today. I also thank my mom for just being there to show me how to be prudent. So one trick she taught me, and maybe now everyone would know, is you never pay finance charges on your credit card. You use your credit card for your needs, and then you pay it off before the bill is due. So you don't pay interest, but you're earning, whatever the reward points is or the cash back, but you're not paying them. So you're really just getting money for free, because you would have used your credit card on groceries or gas or whatever, but you're paying off before it's due, and that way you don't have to pay interest. And that has just helped me just even building my credit score, you know, saving for bigger ticket items down the road, and it's just really helped me to be stable.
Now, see, not all millennials talk like this. I just want you to understand that, but I appreciate that, and I know your mom. She's a really good woman, and I'm a little bit, you know, offended that I don't have this history about this was her dad. That was, I did not know that this is kind of where the seed started about appreciating money, and that, you know, your mom kind of instilled some things there too. And so when you think about, you know, there's so many people today that just don't understand how money works. You mentioned about credit score, you mentioned about being responsible and how to leverage things and so forth. So when you think about you know, being a millennial, and you look at the millennial generation today, a lot of times they're so distracted with so many toys, right? That you all grew up with a lot of toys, right? Social media, video games went to another level. There's so many things, but there's very few who take the time to understand money and how money works. So what are some advice you would say to millennials out there who just don't get that they need to be more concerned about money and how money works?
Sure, I'm not a financial advisor at all, but this is just from my personal experience.
Yeah, just tell me. No, you don't have to worry about nothing. Just talk to me.
This is what has worked for me, is no impulse buying. I know for me, if I see shoes that I like, I'm gonna buy it. So if I know,
I haven't met a woman yet who doesn't have this problem. But
I know. So for me, if I know I'm not trying to buy shoes, I will not go to the mall to tempt myself, or at least not walk in the shoe rack, the shoe aisle.
Right.
But that's just something that's worked for me. The other thing is just no finance charges. You use your credit card, but you pay it off immediately. Only use it for things you need. I also automate my savings. So I have 2 different bank accounts. My direct deposit from my paycheck, I have a percentage of it going through one bank account, and I have a percentage going through another bank account. So I don't even see the money. For me, like, I would see what's in my main checking account as my, you know, my regular pay, but technically I have more money that's going into other accounts. Right. So those are just things that have worked for me and helped me to save a lot of money.
Now that's really great. So you talked about impulsive spending. You talked about the segregation of funds, you know, and actually getting to the point where money goes somewhere and you try to forget about it. Like I don't even have that money.
Exactly.
Like this is the bank account I live out of, and there's a percentage that goes over here that I don't even look at. And I talk to entrepreneurs even about that, even in their business, but even in their personal lives. You commingle everything, you don't realize you're spending something that you shouldn't. And so when you think about, you know, money, a lot of things about money, and a lot of people will say that wealth is created when you start getting your money to make money for you, right?
Yes.
So how would you advise, you know, not everyone is gonna do what you've done. Like you really went into finance and actually got a job in that area. But how would you advise people today that want to learn more about money? Because you've had to come around a lot of education. Not everyone can go get the degree. You're working on your MBA now. How would you advise people who say, I want to do better? Where do I start to learn more?
That's a very good question. You do not need to be a master's, get a master's in finance to be financially responsible. In our day and age, there's lots of videos, YouTube videos. There are blogs and websites that just talk to you, tell you about saving money or just getting your financial act together, in a sense.
Sure.
There's so many YouTube channels. Just go on Google and search how to be financially responsible, and there's going to be at least something that you can start implementing. If anything, you could just start saving $5 or $1, you know, whatever paper money, and just start saving it week by week, and that's a way to start saving money. But in our day and age, there's just so many, you have access to a lot of information online, and you don't need to get a master's in finance to be financially responsible.
Right, very well said. And I think one thing that's so amazing about, you know, just your generation is that we have access to so much information. Like I still remember, you know, the excitement if you could get an encyclopedia set, you know, or these books and all of that. But now it's not about can you know something? It's about, do you want to know?
Exactly.
Right? And so to your point, you can no longer say I didn't know. It's really now about, among millennials and those who have come that are now in this generation watching these millennials, do you really want to know that? And that's the bigger issue. And so I really appreciate you for being a, an example of that as a millennial, because we need more knowledge about people at least wanting to know how to do better. So I want to just ask you one more thing before you go is, now achieving some of the things that you've achieved, accomplishing some of the goals that you've accomplished, what is it that that person out there that feels like that they can't achieve what they want to achieve, they feel like, the obstacle is just too hard, just knowing your journey, even knowing your mom's journey, what would you give them to draw from to keep on going when they reach those obstacles?
That's a great question. I would say, for one, you can't change the past. So you may have made financial mistakes in the past. Just move on. Like, you don't dwell too much on, oh, maybe I wasted my early 20s, I don't know, gambling, or just
the whole generation. They whole 20s.
Credit card, you
right.
just swiped credit card left and right. You can't change that. That is the past, and that's something you may have to live with. But just move forward. It's a fresh start. Every day is a new day, I always say. You don't have to make the same mistake as you did in the past. You were young, and there's that famous thing, I was young and foolish.
Or old, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were younger.
Yeah, right.
You were younger and maybe didn't know better, but now you do, and just don't keep making the same mistakes, I would say. And I would say, maybe set a goal for yourself. Maybe you want to buy a car or take a vacation or whatever it is. And sometimes when you have a goal that you're working towards, it makes you excited to save for that, or whatever it is.
Have some discipline.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think just setting little goals and milestones for yourself will help you to accomplish that.
Well, thank you so much. We got wisdom just flowing out in the studio once again, and I'm just enjoying this. And I would say too, Abigail, to add, just people being able to face and be honest about their situation, because you can't improve something until you're honest about it. Sometimes with money, it's so hard, we don't even want to deal with it. So we just keep spending, keep living, and just let it pile up like, I'll deal with it later, know. But just to stop your life and say, I'm going to face it. And I appreciate you for stopping your life to come and spend some time with us. So thank you so much. This has been great. We've got some more wisdom here from Abigail Harrison. And we've got another guest coming up, another powerful millennial. I hope you've been enjoying this as much as I have. We're going to switch out to Terry Fulton to hear a few more questions be answered. And then when we come back, the millennials are going to still be speaking. We'll see you soon.
That was outstanding, and hopefully you all caught something there as we've been talking about bridging the gap. That was 3 generations of wisdom. Abigail talking about her grandfather, then her mother, and now her. And not only was it 3 generations, it expanded the globe. And so it proves that you can work together and you can make room for one another. And that's the question that we got here, is how do we create space for everyone to work together from all generations? I want to kind of take a little different spin on this and just kind of get you to think about this. The way you create room or create space is get out of the way. And so that's what happens a lot of times, is our unconscious biases are in the way, our perspective is in the way, our opinion is in the way, our past is in the way, I just don't like the way you do things is in the way. Get that out of the way, and you'll make room and you'll make space for other people. And that's really what we're trying to do when we're talking about reducing the gap. It's really just you reduce the gap by changing your thinking. Shift your perspective, your mental perspective, and you'll be able to look at the same situation from a different point of view, and you'll be able to process new information and create a positive environment where everybody has room to grow, flourish, and be a part. So just kind of keep that in mind. The best way to make space, get out of the way. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to Michael E. Parker for another interview, and I'll be back a little bit later to talk about what we're gonna be doing next week. So I hope you're enjoying the show. I sure am. and we'll head back to Michael Lee Parker.
Hello, everyone. Michael Lee Parker here, and as promised, I have another millennial speaking out. This is Miss Molly Carter. I have to get used to saying that, Molly. Can you shake my hand? Because I knew her before she was happily married, that she's been married now. I mean, all of you watching you grow up and seeing you become what you've become, and Molly here I almost feel is like family, like just watching her grow. Now a master colorist, works at our salon, Javance, a lead bride stylist, also just being a licensed cosmetologist and graduating from Aveda's school and watching you come through all of that, being certified in different, disciplines like Diva Cut and all these different things. What I think is so interesting to me about you is that you didn't try to follow the crowd. Like, there's traditional routes that people go, whether it's getting a degree or even certain types of degrees. You had to be honest about what you really felt your passion was. And so I want to talk more about that. But before I do, you've been around URCO too since, you were young. And so being able to follow your passion and really be true with that, even though there might have been a lot of voices saying, Molly, you could do this, you that, and you had to be real about, there's something in me that's creative, that's different than everyone else, and I gotta follow that. How did URCO help you to do that?
I would say just knowing that I could do, it sounds cliche, but I could do whatever I wanted to do and be whoever I wanted to be and be successful in that, and I didn't have to follow the crowd, or I didn't have to go with what even my parents were telling me to do, or saying you're too smart to do hair, or yada yada.
Right.
But I knew that if I really wanted to do it, I could, because of what I had been told with URCO about being successful and not waiting for someone to tell you to do something, to go out and get it. And just knowing, like, just the empowerment that you can be who you want to be if you put the work into it.
Right.
And just all the disciplines that come along with that, just personally, whether it's with your career or your personal life, just having your life together, and learning that from a young age, even though I still have not perfected that,
Right.
but just always having your eyes on the prize, I guess you could say, and know that that's where I'm trying to get to, and having goals and setting goals and accomplishing them, and not beating yourself up when something doesn't go your way,
Right.
but using it as a stepping stone to get to where you're trying to go. Even if your route changes,
Right.
still be successful. Don't go backwards, keep moving forward. And
Wow.
I think that's...
Wow. This is just powerful here tonight. I really appreciate what you're saying. Listening at you speak, I can tell you've bought that. Like, that's not just words. You've been through something. You've cried some tears. You've had some disappointments. You've gotten up from some falls. And, tell me a little bit about, because I just have seen what you've become. You really have a unique talent to be able to do hair and to do color and to just pick almost anything up we would throw at you. And so, when did you discover that there was something different about you concerning hair, and that there was something you could do that was on the inside? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that there might be a lot of people who want to tell them what they should do, but they know whenever they touch this thing that something turns on for them. It could be food, it could be something that people think's a hobby, but for them, it's something different, it's something special. When did you discover that, and when did you know that this was that something?
Not until I started working at Jovance in high school as a receptionist. I was 16. I think I was 16 or 17.
You was a receptionist? I forgot about that.
And that was not my skill set.
Right.
I messed it up every day. Somebody had to come fix the report. It was just not for me, but I had a job, so I was thankful for that. But just being on the floor and watching the technicians and the camaraderie between them, and just being a team, that was what really got my attention, was being a part of a real team. Then the moment that I started, I got my apprenticeship license while I was still in high school, so I got it going. The moment that I touched somebody's hair and they told me, wow, you did really good, and I said, I did? And I wanted to keep doing it because I felt like it just came so naturally to me. And, of course, there's practice involved, and you have to really, put forth the effort. but just being with that team and seeing all the different diversities that were there and everything that they were able to do, and me trying it and seeing, hey, this is actually pretty easy. I mean, you know, like it makes sense. It just clicked in my mind. And other things, like I said, the numbers, like receptionists and all that stuff, it didn't click like that. So when I knew that, then, and there had been things in the past that I've done, whether it was in high school, you know, different classes you take that you could just close your eyes and get an A. It was kind of like that. So it just came naturally, and I was like, well, let me keep going and see what else I can accomplish in this industry, because clearly this may be where I'm supposed to be. So.
Now let me build on that, because what you're talking about right now, I mean, I hope everyone is listening closely, because this is the challenge of life, is trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to be doing, right? Everyone is in that struggle, and you know, so first of all, I commend you for being able to notice your opportunity. And I want to talk about that a little bit. The ability, you know, I think there's a slogan, I think it's Carpe Diem, like to seize the moment, to be able to know when your moment is, or when something's happening that's unique that you need to pay attention to. And so when you, how important is it to, when you're in different environments, whether you're a millennial or any other generation, to be observant of what's going on around you and to notice when there's an opportunity to potentially grow, because you came in as a receptionist, which I forgot, that was powerful, and that environment introduced you to your career. So how important, talk a little bit about recognizing opportunity.
I would say always be open, have an open mind. Don't go into any situation with stuck on a certain idea, because another opportunity may open, and just being willing to follow that, and knowing that, like I said earlier, whatever you do want to do, you can do it. Not saying that you should take the easy way out. Like I said, it was easy, so let's do it. No, it wasn't easy like that, but it came naturally. So taking advantage of those opportunities, because they don't come often. And if you are put in a situation where, you know, you're like, I'm doing this, but I just really like this. It comes easily. It seems like it clicks. Well, let's open the door and see what's behind it, and see maybe there's a better opportunity out there for you, and just never being stuck. Like, you know, saying, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. That's never really comes true. I mean, very rarely does it come true. So in life, you just go through these opportunities where you realize, well, maybe I want to do this, or maybe I want to do that. And just knowing, like, give yourself the chance to actually be great at something if you notice that comes naturally to you.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So tell me this then, in what you just said, describe how it feels to move from consideration to courage. And what I mean by that is, I'm considering that maybe this is something I want to be, something I want to do. The next thing you know, you keep, like you said, keep trying, adding this, adding that, and then moves from consideration to courage. Like, I'm doing this and I feel good about it. Tell me about how that shift took place, and how does that take place?
Well, you kind of just have to do it. I mean, if you know that that's what you want to do and who you want to be, you just have to put in your whole effort to become that. And, you know, don't slack off. Don't decide, hey, I'm going to do this today, but tomorrow, I don't think I'm going to do it. Like, go for it. Be committed to it. And you have to, yeah, it's scary, and you don't know what the future brings. You don't know if you're going to be successful or not. But in an industry like this, cosmetology or beauty, anything, if you're in it, it is what you make it. You are who you want to be. If you want to be great, make yourself great. Practice, put the work in. It's not something that just comes overnight. You have to put the work in no matter what area it is. But you just, like Holly said earlier, you just have to press through those fears. If you know that that's where you're trying to be, you just got to do it.
You know, you're talking like a CEO.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm telling you, you are a CEO. You're running the business of you. I'm just liking what I'm hearing. And I want to, so before we, you know, kind of end this, let's get superficial for a minute, because you're in the beauty industry.
I am.
And so, millennials, this is the Instagram, Snapchat age, and everyone's taking pictures, everyone's looking at themselves, everyone's using filters. And how do we find a balance today in appreciating the beauty of the human being, but people not losing the appreciation of the beauty that's inside of them? Because you see a lot of people that appreciate beauty, but there's, no one's posting something saying, I have character, or I've been through a lot and I made it. It's all about, so how do we have both? When you look at the generation you're in and we want both. There's nothing wrong with beauty and we appreciate that. I mean, we have a business all about that, right? But how do we find that balance? What do you say, being in this industry and surrounded by so much that puts emphasis on beauty?
Well, I would say even in social media, I mean, the predominance of beauty is on social media now, like you said. But I can always tell when someone's being real and they're skilled, or if they're being skilled and they're being fake or superficial, or, they post all this great work, but then they're posting all this crazy stuff about what they're doing, like their personal life and just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not, it doesn't go together.
Yeah, doesn't match.
It doesn't match. And that's speaking of from a professional standpoint. Speaking of a professional to a guest standpoint, it's kind of like you have to see deeper than what they're asking you to do and try to get to really know them and see, well, you're changing your hair from blonde to red every 3 months. Like, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Is there something deeper that I can, like even telling you you're beautiful, even telling you, it doesn't matter what you do to your hair, you're gorgeous. It doesn't matter. Like, you have this going on for yourself, you have that going on for yourself. And that really makes people feel so good. I mean, you could do someone's hair amazing, but if your personality is terrible, or if you're not, you're like, well, yeah, I did your hair, pay me. It's like, it's not the same experience. So just thinking of it from a customer's perspective, they want to feel like you're making them feel beautiful in ways other than what's on the outside.
Right. And at Javance, we promote Beauty Begins Inside to go deeper. And so I just got to say this, I'm over my time here, but I just have to ask this because, that's the salon environment, but let's take it outside into the streets and just the young ladies out there that's looking for something to feel good about themselves. No one is telling them they're beautiful. Maybe sometimes they don't feel that validation, so they go out of their way to get it in the wrong way. Even young men out there that are looking for that acceptance. And so, what do you say to just your generation out there that's looking for a lot to believe in and to hope and for that validation, and teaching this generation to look for beauty deeper than an Instagram post?
I would say that it's really, personally, when I do things that I know that I had a good day, or I got a lot done, or, I did this for somebody else, or something like that, it makes me feel very good. And it makes me feel like I've accomplished something, or, I'm getting better every single day. And I would say that it's more than what you look like if you're sitting at home on the couch playing video games all day. It's like, get out there and make yourself into who you want to be successful. I mean, even if you're working at McDonald's, if that's what you want to do and you're going to be successful in it and you feel good about it, then that's who you are, and just be confident in that. Don't beat yourself up internally about what you're not and what you can't be. You can be that. You just have to go out and actually do it. It takes work. But when you are successful and you get done the things that you know that you want to do, you feel so good about yourself.
Absolutely. So finding the beauty in substance, the substance of who I am and what I'm accomplishing, finding the beauty in that, and I can still have my hair looking nice at the same time too. So we can have a little bit of both. So beauty and substance. So this has been outstanding. I want to thank you again, Molly. And as you all have heard tonight, the Millennials have been speaking here tonight. I'm telling you. And so I appreciate this and being able to hear. And this has been a wonderful show. And we're going to send it over to Terry to wrap up and give us just the final details for our next show, as well as some of the things that are going to be happening that those of you that are just joining the URCL movement, you want to know what to do. Terry can give you some insight on that. But I want to thank you. I'm Michael Lee Parker. This has been an outstanding show. I want to thank all the millennials who spoke here tonight. They've done an outstanding job. And I hope you see that our millennials have a lot to say. Don't put them in one box. They don't have just one journey. They're not just one type of person. They are a in-depth group that when we tap into their genius, then we can benefit from that genius. And not only are they having that genius, but all of our generations do. We just have to find the eye to look for it. Thank you so much. Terry Fulton, it's all yours. Give us some final remarks.
Thank you, sir. Outstanding job to everyone that you talked to, and you did an amazing job as well. And what you all witnessed here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, were two generations where there are no gaps. Michael Lee Parker, myself, and the URCO team have been honored and blessed to work with hundreds of millennials with no gaps, and we see their brilliance, and we've been able to actually see them grow into the people that you heard from tonight. So I want to thank Kelvin. I want to thank Holly. I want to thank Abigail as well as Molly for coming in tonight and sharing their stories and the wisdom and to speak out on behalf of all millennials. And now I want to prepare you for our next show. We are not done talking about the generations, but we're going to have a little spin on this. So let me take you through here some final announcements. So before we get into next show, always, as we say, make sure that you join the CEO Success Club on our Facebook group, as well as the URC or the YAAC affiliates, Facebook group. And then you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You also want to join the movement at youareceo.com. And lastly, next week's show, we will talk about raising the I generation. That is basically those that were born in the 21st century. And we're not going to talk a lot about the I generation and all the gaps. We're going to talk to the parents, and we're going to talk to the mentors that assist the parents in raising a brand new generation, also known as a digital nation, that none of us have the same background as them, but we can actually close those gaps too and raise another successful crop of CEOs. So on behalf of Michael Lee Parker and the URCO team, between now and next week, let the whole world know that you are a CEO. You run the business of you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.